Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the noon session of the semester 2 presentation series. Today is the second day of the presentations, and students will give the presentation on American Literature, paper 108. So let's start. First, I would like to invite Tanvi Mehra.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. Now I am going to discuss about the role of the war correspondent, romanticism versus reality in war literature. These are my academic information, table of content, and research question for my presentation is how has the portrayal of war by war correspondents and literary figures evolved from romanticized narratives to realist uh, depictions, and what factors influence this shift in war literature? Hypothesis of my presentation is the transition from romanticism to realism in war literature is driven by the increasing direct engagement of war correspondents with frontline experience, advancement in media technology, and uh, changing socio-political attitudes with collectively challenge traditional heroic war narratives and expose the moral and psychological complexities of warfare. Introduction. What is war correspondence? War correspondence means journalism. A journalist who report directly from war zones and shape public perception of war through their accounts. Romanticism versus reality in war literature. Romanticism explores themes like heroism, duty, adventure, and noble sacrifice. And reality explores themes like violence, trauma, disillusionment, and moral ambiguity. uh, Key examples like Ernest Hemingway's For Whom the Bell Tolls. In this, we can say Hemingway, it's himself. He was a correspondent uh, of the war, and other is Frost's war poems challenge the glorification of war, showing its tragic consequences. And then Bob Dylan's protest songs critique war and its justification through folk music. Romanticism in war literature. War as noble and heroic, often portrayed as an adventure filled with bravery and sacrifice. Soldiers depicted as honorable warriors fighting for a greater cause. Role of war correspondence in early literature. Many war reports and poems glorify battle, patriotism, and duty, focus on courage over suffering, often ignoring the horror of wars. For example, Tennyson's The Charge of the Light Brigade. It's celebrate the bravery of soldiers, and despite their doom charge, and it's emphasizes honor, obedience, and duty rather than the tragedy of war. And Hemingway's For Whom the Bell Tolls. Robert he was main character, and Jordan initially believes in the noble cause of the Spanish Civil War, and sees himself as a hero fighting for justice driven by idealism. The reality of war. War's brutality and suffering. War is not just about heroism, it brings death, fear, and destruction, and moral ambiguity. No clear good versus evil, just survival and loss. First-hand accounts from war correspondents. Hemingway reported on the Spanish Civil War, and he was witnessing its horrors. And his journalism influenced the gritty realism in For Whom the Bell Tolls. Hemingway's For Whom the Bell Tolls, challenging the romantic ideal of war, shows war as a violent, emotionally devastating, and morally complex. This novel shows themes like betrayal, disillusionment, and inevitability, death, and Robert Frost's view on violence. Uh, it's not a traditional war poet, but explore violence and loss. The Vanishing Red, a cold depiction of death without heroism, and contrast idealism with the harsh reality of human conflict. Hemingway as a war correspondent. Hemingway's role as a war correspondent, uh, uh, he covered the reality of a civil war. During the war, he was as a his role as a correspondent, and he was a witness of this battle, and uh, he also interviewed soldiers and experienced the war firsthand. Impact on For Whom the Bell Tolls. His reporting shaped the realistic, unromantic depiction of war in the novel. War is shown as chaotic, brutal, and morally complex rather than heroic. Robert Jordan's character era starts as an idealistic American volunteer in the Spanish Civil War, gradually loses his romantic nation, seeing war's betrayal, fear, and sacrifice. His final moments reflect Hemingway's view on war as a tragic and inevitable. Bob Dylan's anti-war commentary, challenging romanticized war narratives. Dylan's song expose war's hidden realities rather than glorify it, uses music as a form of protest, much like war correspondent use journalism. His two best anti-war songs. First one is Master of War. This song represents a harsh critic of war profiteers and political leaders who fuel conflicts. And the second was With God on Our Side. This song is also Bob Dylan's famous anti-war song, and this song questions the morality of war, showing how nations justify violence, highlights hypocrisy and shifting narratives in war history. Dylan as a musical war correspondent. Like a journalist, he documents war's impact through storytelling. His songs inform, challenge, and provoke through just as the war reporters do. Romanticism versus reality in war literature. Romanticism, war is depicted as a glorious and honorable, where soldiers fight with bravery and duty. In The Charge of the Light Brigade, Tennyson celebrates the courage of soldiers despite their doomed mission, and the reality. War is shown as brutal, chaotic, and disillusioning. Hemingway's For Whom the Bell Tolls presents fear, brutality, and inevitable death, stripping away the romantic ideals for war, and its a contrast. Early war literature glorifies sacrifice, portraying soldiers as a hero. Hemingway, Frost, and Dylan expose the darker side of war, violence, suffering, and moral ambiguity. Conclusion. War correspondents and writers shape how war is perceived, balancing between glorified heroism and harsh reality. While early literature romanticized war, modern works like Hemingway's Forum the Bell Tolls, Robert Frost's poetry, and Bob Dylan's song reveal its brutality, disillusionment, and emotional toll. Their narratives challenge idealized views, exposing war's true cost. Ultimately, war literature reminds us that behind every battle are real human lives, urging us to see beyond myths and acknowledge war's profound impact on individuals and society. These are my references. Thank you. If you have any question.
So, Tanvi, my question is, what is the main difference between romanticized and realistic war literature?
In romanticized literature shows the reality of war, and realistic war shows anti-war wars, if emotional and psychological effects of uh, and
My question is, how does modern war reporting differ from traditional war literature?
Modern war reporting uh, 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 gives news about war instant, and traditional war literature uh, 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 discuss about its impact and harsh reality in history, like books and some as we know, Hemingway's For Whom the Bell Tolls. This is a anti-war novel by and in this novel, we while we learning, we know the effects of war and harsh reality of war. So traditional war literature and modern war literature different. So thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today I am going to present my presentation on war literature. So my research question is, how does Eugene O'Neill's long day's journey into night depict tragic inheritance and tragic expression through familial dysfunction and psychological realism? Hypothesis: the play represents tragedy as an inherited cycle of suffering through fragmented communication, addiction, and guilt. O'Neill's terrifying tragedy in a modern psychological context, moving beyond the classical notion of a singular downfall. Eugene O'Neill, he was first American playwright to win the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1936. He was known for tragic realism, deep psychological insight, and family conflict themes. Influenced by his unstable childhood, father's acting career, and mother's drug addiction, he worked as a sailor first and experience of poverty, which shaped his realistic storytelling. Here I mention some notable works of his: Introduction, A Descent into Darkness. This is a semi autobiographical family drama. It explores addiction, regret, and failed communication. Um, we can see it as a modern tragedy because it is moves away from classical heroism and focus on psychological depth. Uh, these play reflect the personal life of O'Neill's because characters are relate with his own family members, and here are we can see a lack of catharsis. The play ends in continued suffering, reflecting a steady descent. Autobiographical roots: O'Neill's family is fiction. So Tyrone family represent the family of O'Neills. So James Tyrone represent James O'Neill, his father's miserliness and artistic regret. Mary Tyrone represent his um O'Neill's mother's character, Ella O'Neill. She was also addicted to morphine, and it shows us the struggle of his own mother. Jamie and Edmund both represent his own brother O'Neill and his brother. They both are they both suffer from addiction, and O'Neill also suffer from tuberculosis and artistic ambitions. So here I mention one point that Shakespearean allusions heightening tragic tone. Jamie mocks Mary as Ophelia. So Ophelia also was addicted with Hamlet. She was fell in love with him. So here Jamie also mocks Mary that you are also much like Ophelia. You are also addicted to drugs, and they both are trapped in same situation. Ophelia also trapped in his love, and she was not able to uh, came came out from her addiction. Mary was also like her. She was she tried to stop taking drugs, but she was not able to stop that. So Shakespearean echoes elevate a domestic tragedy, making it universal. Inherited tragic flows. Mary, she was addicted, and she has a dream of become nun, but she was not able to become a nun, and she has also one dream that she want to be a pianist at concert, and this was her dream, and this also didn't come true. James' miscellaneous guilt obsession with past success. James was also a great actor in his young age, but after that he rushed behind the money, and he ended his uh, career in acting. Jamie, self-destruction, cynicism, and jealousy. Jamie was also addicted to taking alcohol, and he also, much like Mary's addiction, he was also not able to stop his addiction with alcohol and cynicism. Edmund, Edmund was also addicted to alcohol, and he has also regret that he also want to become actor, but his father forced him to. He was did not want to become a actor, but his father forced him to be a actor. Tragic inheritance. Are these flaws innate or learned, or both? So uh, all have that obsession and addiction. So I think that this is inherited, because their parents also addicted with alcohol and drug taking like morphine, so their children also uh, have habit from their parents of taking alcohol. Mary's crisis of identity and agency. Addiction as loss of agency. So Mary take drugs continuously from for stay away from her past. She was not much love her children because her mental health issues. So here we can see that she continuously complaining about her past, and her husband James did not complains him that you didn't give me that home which I want. And when her child was died, she take drug which is morphine. She continuously takes that, and in the end we can see that she recalls her past, and she again wants to become a nun, and she imagine many things, and she also use metaphor of fog to escape from her past. The Tyrone family's futile quest for happiness. American ideal versus tragic reality. O'Neill challenges pursuit of happiness. Mary's illusion, happiness is in the past. Uh, we can see that Mary wants to become a nun in her past, and also wants to become a pianist at concert, but she was not able to become a nun or a concert pianist, and she thinks that she was much happy in her past, and she was now said. Jamie also successful was also a successful actor in her past, but after that he rushed behind the money, and he had no happiness in his current life, because his both son are struggling with their addiction to taking of alcohol. Jamie also take alcohol, and Edmund has a serious illness, which is tuberculosis. That so all things that every their happiness is in their past, but in current situation they have no happiness, and they have only conflict between each other. The fog is metaphor for deception and isolation. Mary every time use fog, that fog is coming back, and here O'Neill represent fog as metaphor to escape from their reality. And also speaker characters didn't communicate with each other. Most of the time they fight with each other, and they always blaming on each other. Play acting and psychological mask. uh, the tyrants assume roles in the family drama. Mask of survival. uh, Mary wants to escape from her reality and her past, so she take drugs for escape, and she pretend to be she was better, and she was not really better, and she has no mental issue, but she pretends like that she has no any mental health issue, or she was not she was a good mother, and she pretends like that. The inescapable descent into tragedy. uh, Inevitably of fate, the past dictates their present. No catharsis, no redemption. uh, as we see that they all characters are not able to escape from their reality, and they always used to escape from their reality by taking alcohol, and Mary's addiction to drugs, and all characters are try to escape from their reality, but we can see that our fate is inevitable. Conclusion. Eugene O'Neill's long day's journey into night redefined American drama by pioneering a psychological realism and exposing the raw complexity of family trauma. The play explores tragic inheritance, personal failure, and the struggle for understanding, showing how past wounds shape the present. Through the Tyrone family cycle of addiction, guilt, and regret, O'Neill warns of the destructive power of unresolved pain. Without resolution or catharsis, the play leaves us with a haunting question: can we break free from inherited suffering, or are we uh, destined to repeat it? These are my references. Thank you. If anyone have question.
Srushti, my question is, how has social media changed family communication and connection?
So, in modern times, we can relate this question that if uh, because social media change family communication and connection, because we see that if anyone try to connect with each other, then they simply call each other. They not meet them face to face, and also we put stories, and we are not directly wishes them any on their occasions or birthday or anniversaries. So social media change this that in ancient time, people went to their homes and greets them, but in modern times we see that we indirectly wish them through social medias, and we uh, we may face misunderstanding through this.
So my question is, why do people feel lonely despite being more connected than ever?
As I mentioned, people used to greet face to face, but now a time people send message or put stories. So I think that we can sometimes feel lonely because some people because people did not come to us and directly greet us for our occasion or our birthday or anniversary. So we can relate this that by using social media we sometimes feel lonely because we have no person that so we can share our feelings to them face to face, and we did not get a solution for our problems, and so thank you.
When it comes to the question of just adding on to, like, Srushti's point of view, I'm not denying your observation, but just a thought. Distances don't require media, right? Distances are created even without the use of media. It is all about choice and priorities. The modern times today, our requirements, our necessities are much more bigger than our connections. That is the reality, right? Because, and for fulfilling those necessities, we have to make those choices where we skip to message someone, to call someone, to meet someone, right? So that is more about the distances which are now created. So social media nowadays is just an excuse to say that people are now distanced or things, right? When some you don't agree with somebody's ideas, for example, very easily you distance yourself from them, right? The next day you won't even talk to them. Just a dry hi would do, right? So that is how things are. So yes, just adding on to those thoughts, when it comes to Eugene O'Neill's depiction of loneliness or addiction or obsessions, is basically tapping on to those situations, right, which you create by yourselves, right? The characters had this choice to not be like their parents if they wanted to, right? So it is not about they inherited those characteristics and that's why they are suffering. You inherit so many things, but then you also have the choice to move away from those inheritance, right? So that is where the question lies. That is where Eugene O'Neill's critique, or in a way his works, are significant. He's asking us to self reflect. You had the choice, yet you didn't make it, and that is how things are. So that is in his personal case, as far as him as an individual is concerned, he made that choice that no, I'll not be like my parents, I'll be a sailor, I'll work somewhere, I'll not sit passively, right? So that is where things are from O'Neill's side. So that understanding, I think you need to develop of that play, right? How individual choices, priorities are shaping the decisions of the characters, and how those decisions then lead to certain consequences for those characters. So yeah, thank you.
Next, please.
The topic for my today's presentation is
is a post-structuralist interpretation of Fire and Ice by Robert Frost. These are my academic information. The research question for my presentation is, how does a post-structuralist approach challenge the fixed interpretation of Robert Frost's Fire and Ice, and what implications does this have for the fluidity of meaning in literary texts? The hypothesis asserts that a post-structuralist reading of Fire and Ice reveals that the poem resists a single fixed interpretation. Instead, its meaning is contingent and on language play, intertextual references, and the reader's role in meaning making. By deconstructing its binaries of language, the poem illustrates how language destabilizes absolute truths, reinforcing the idea that meaning is subjective and ever shifting. Introduction. Post-structuralism challenges the idea of fixed meanings in literature, emphasizing language's instability and the reader's role in interpretation. Unlike traditional approaches that argues that meaning is it argues that meaning is fluid and shaped by context, cultures, and intertextual influences. In this presentation, I am going to analyze the Robert Frost Fire and Ice along with the concept of post-structuralism. So what is post-structuralism? Post-structuralism is an approach to literature that, proceeding from the tenets of structuralism, maintains that as words have no absolute meaning, any text is open to an unlimited range of interpretations. Major theories connected to post-structuralism. The post-structuralism term is shaped by key theories that challenged fixed meanings in text, and we can have the Derrida's deconstruction. Deconstruction argues that language is unstable and meaning is constantly deferred, making it absolute interpretation impossible. Barthes' death of author shifts meaning from the author to the reader, as the meaning of the text is not only that the author wants to tell us, but for different people, the meanings could be different. Then Kristeva's intertextuality theory that highlights how texts are the highlight that how texts are came from the came from the inspiration from the other texts, and the every text are from that inspirations, but have no new meaning in it. Then psychoanalytic criticism by Kristeva also examines language and desire in poetry. About Fire and Ice by Robert Frost. It was published in 1923 and is a very short poem by Robert Frost that explores that the potential ways the world could end, using fire and ice as metaphors for desire and hatred, respectively. The poem explores themes of destruction through two elements: the fire as desire and the ice as hate. Traditional readings of it see it as a meditation on human emotions and apocalyptic destruction. It is influenced by Dante's Inferno, particularly in its depiction of fire and ice as symbols of punishment and destruction. It is also influenced by religious stories that says the end of world would come one day. The poem's structure is simple. The rhyming scheme is followed by him with a conversational tone, but its themes are deep and philosophical. It raises existential questions about the nature of destruction, whether passion or cold indifference is more harmful. characteristic of doing the post-structuralist interpretation of any literary work. Uh, the the question to question the idea of single meaning represents in post-structuralist concept that every text has uh, more than one meaning. It depends on the reader. Meaning shifts depending on a reader's perspective, context, linguistic play, and also we can say the cultural context or the religious context could change the meaning of play. Uh, if we apply this characteristic to fire and ice, we can find that when the idea is given in the poem that fire as hatred and ice, fire as sorry fire and ice is hatred and desire. We can say that the meaning that Robert Frost has given to it, that could be changed in many perspectives. Then deconstruct the language. Uh, we can say the fire and ice should be the binary opposites or love and hate, like that. These concepts of binary oppositions are the linguistic concepts that uh, we can think through different lenses on it, like if we say the fire and ice are the binary opposite terms, here in this poem the destination of the fire and ice progress is to disrupt the world and to end it. Challenge the authority of the speaker. The speaker is not a reliable source of absolute truth, as we can see this, that in fire and ice, Frost is giving the idea of ending the end of the world by examples of fire and ice and desire and hatred. But in other texts, we can also find the concept of this ending of world uh, uh, symbolized with other terms, and that could be seen as the decline on authority of speaker, that Barth is in his Death of the Author has 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 given, and that meaning comes from the reader, not the author. The speaker presents two competing theories but doesn't confirm either in this poem. The phrase like "I think," "I know," that gives us the feeling of uncertainty and lack of reliability on the author. Then analyze intertextuality. As I mentioned that the fire and ice and the ending of world are mentioned in Dante's Inferno. Then biblical themes are also on that. Then scientific theories like universe might be covered in ice fully one time, and that are also the intertextual concepts that a reader should keep in mind while analyzing the work. Then expose hidden power structures. Texts reinforce or challenge dominant ideologies. Foucault's power structures, language subtly enforces control. Uh, while applying it to fire and ice, the poem presents destruction as inevitable, removing human agency. Who decides what fire and ice mean is the reader, not the author. The simplicity of the poem hides complex layers of interpretation, making the reader question authority. Look for gaps, silences, and absence. the post-structuralist concept of looking for gaps is what a text does not say is just as important as what it does. Gaps create ambiguity and leave us with a meaning with unstable meanings. While applying it to fire and ice, we can say the poem never defines what fire and ice truly present. Uh, the concept given it to it, the desire and hate, is given by author Robert Frost, but it never defines that it is actually that thing. There is no the poem tells us that ending of world would be by fire or ice, but the idea which these both terms are provoked, that it will end, but it's not confirmed that it will do that. So we cannot define that the terms and the poem are uh, giving it as better forces or the worst forces for the universe or the world. The future remains unknown. Is destruction metaphorical or literal? That we also can see that this is not the claim he is making, but he is just interpreting the one thing through literature, through literary texts and myths that are around him. Consider the reader's role in meaning making. Barthes says that the reader, not the author, creates meaning. That we can say, if we try to see with the example of fire and ice, if we read the poem, we are the meaning maker of it. Not we cannot have the exact idea what was in Robert Frost's mind while writing it, but we consider our cultural context and our language understanding to it, and consider it as our meaning. The conclusion: post-structuralist analysis of fire and ice demonstrates that meaning in literature is never fixed but is instead shaped by the interplay of language, context, and interpretation. The poem challenges binary oppositions, undermines the authority of the speaker, and opens itself to multiple readings through intertextual references. By acknowledging gaps, contradictions, and the role of the reader, this interpretation highlights the fluidity of meaning, aligning with Derrida's concept of difference. Ultimately, Fire and Ice serves as an example of how text resists singular interpretations, emphasizing the inherent instability of language and the reader's active role in constructing meaning. These are my references, and thank you. Now you're free to ask questions.
Smruti, my question is, does Frost's use of a rigid rhyme scheme contradict the post-structuralist idea of fluid meaning?
uh, uh, the use of rigid rhyme scheme in Frost's poem does not contradict the idea of fluid meaning, as the in if we see it in post-structuralist view. It is a mere deceptive concept, because the rigid structure makes it to interpret in more in many contexts, as it makes it simple, and so it is not the contradictory, but it gives it the openness for interpretations.
Smruti, my question is, if meaning is never fixed, Does this diminish the significance of authorial intent in Fire and Ice?
Uh, the authorial intent in Fire and Ice could be seen as uh, the authorial intent in Fire and Ice could be seen as that we don't know what was in author's mind, Frost's mind, while writing the poem, but uh, the interpretations of the work are always by the side of the reader, and it is not always on the author. So it does not diminish the significance of authorial intent in Fire and Ice, but it if we see it in structuralist views, that it is on the reader, the intention of the poem or the interpretation of the poem. Thank you.
The whole idea of authorial intent, it's okay. The whole idea of authorial intent is quite interesting. How do you understand what authorial intent is in the first place? Then we can talk about what significance there is in authorial intent or not. What do you understand by until and unless a particular author or a poet explicitly says that this is what I wanted to do in the work? Until and unless that doesn't happen, you don't have an authorial intent in the first place. It is the readers who decide this might be the intention of the author. Even they are not sure. So if the meaning is not fixed, so is the authorial intent not fixed, right? So until and unless a poet says that this is my intention and may or may not have been fulfilled in the text, right? Until and unless that doesn't happen, you don't have a clear idea of the intent itself. So saying that whether the significance of a work lies in the fulfillment or the lacking of authorial intent is itself a huge debate. So, yeah, keep that in mind for future texts.
So, hello everyone. Today I'm going to present Margaret Fuller's Woman in the 19th Century, Transcendentalism and Feminism. So, these are my personal information, table of contents. My research question: how did Margaret Fuller's integration of transcendentalist philosophy with feminist thought challenge the gender norms and intellectual frameworks of 19th century America? And what impact did her activism and writings, particularly Women in 19th Century, have on the development of feminist theory and social reform movements? And my hypothesis: Margaret Fuller's Woman in the 19th Century fused transcendentalist ideas with feminist philosophy, challenging gender roles and patriarchal structures. Through her advocacy for women's rights and active reform in America and Europe, she expanded transcendentalism into a political force. This blend of theory and activism laid the foundation for later feminist movements and shaped 19th and early 20th century feminist and social justice thought. So next, introduction. So, Margaret Fuller was a key transcendentalist thinker and a writer, and also early feminist who merged transcendentalist ideas with gender equality and activism. So, she challenged the male dominated movement and advocating for women's education and also women's right. And we can also say that her own experience that when her father died and his uncle take a estate of her So at that time she realized that how a woman suffered in this case. So that's why that's points here. So in this also as an editor of the Dial, she shaped transcendentalist discourse political activism in the US and Europe. So, disillusioned with transcendentalist passively, she shifted towards direct activism, supporting the Italian Revolution of 1848. So next, introduction to Margaret Fuller. So already we in a previous slide we discussed Margaret Fuller was a leading transcendentalist thinker. So she is often mentioned alongside major transcendentalist figures such as Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau. And Fuller's work is significant for its contribution to feminist philosophy, and particularly through her book Woman in the 19th Century. So also she served as an editor of the Dial and a prominent transcendentalist journal that published progressive ideas. So next, Fuller's relationship with transcendentalism. So first we will see what is the transcendentalism. That it's a beyond normal human experience, knowledge, and reason or understanding, especially in a religion and a spiritual way. So that is transcendentalism, and also how it's connected with Fuller. So transcendentalism emphasized self-reliance, also moral growth. So and individual growth. So Fuller was a central figure in the transcendentalist circle. As she felt constrained by its limitations, particularly regarding women's roles. So she organized conversations for women in Boston, and where she encouraged women to engage in intellectual discussion and self-development. So, and another one is Fuller's departure to New York and later Italy. So, allowed her to explore a more political form of activism beyond the philosophical confines of transcendentalism. And also, woman in the 19th century was the most radical and politically charged work. So, making a shift from transcendentalist idealism to direct feminist advocacy or activism. So, next, themes and arguments in women in the 19th century. Women's complete freedom. So here Fuller demands equal education, economic independence, legal rights, and also spiritual autonomy. So arguing that freedom is a right, not a privilege. So and also in today's time also that problem is relevant. We can connect this point. So in a critique of patriarchy, she condemns male dominated structure, and we can take one example from Nathaniel Hawthorne's The Scarlet Letters. It also connected with social constraints and all things. So and also marriage and gender roles. She criticizes marriage as economic dependence. So it also we can take one it also connected with economic that all girls connected with economy, money, and that's why they marriage with rich people. And parallels with slavery, Fuller compares a woman's oppression to slavery. Here we can also take one example from Beloved. In this also we can say that how women suffered from slavery and all. support from marginalized women. She argues that prostitutes are victims of male privilege, condemns a double standard in sexuality, and urges societal responsibility for all women. So next, comparison with Mary Wollstonecraft. So it's also most an important example for feminism also. And Fuller is frequently compared to Mary Wollstonecraft. And Mary Wollstonecraft, one of the most famous work, A Vindication of the Rights of Women. It also connected with Margaret Fuller's ideas, and we can see there are both similarities, that both argues for women's education and intellectual empowerment, and both claim that women have been denied opportunities to develop their true potential. But here we can see that they both are also different from each other, that Wollstonecraft's style is a direct and rational, but influenced by enlightenment, whereas Fuller is poetic and transcendentalist. So this is a different side of Wollstonecraft and Margaret Fuller. So, and Margaret Fuller believes in gender equality based on reason, while Fuller emphasizes spiritual and moral equality as well. So Wollstonecraft is more linear in her argument, while Fuller's writing is more impressionistic and allusive. So next, Fuller's break from transcendentalism. So criticism of inaction. Fuller admires transcendentalist idea but criticized the movement for failing to engage in real social change. She felt that male transcendentalists, including Emerson, remained too focused on personal enlightenment rather than actively addressing systematic oppression. And activism in New York. Moving to New York in 1844, she became a journalist for the New York Tribune, and shifting from philosophy to hands-on reform work. And she investigated prisons and hospitals and poverties, and exposing social injustices. So, and legacy, Fuller expanded transcendentalism beyond personal self-improvement into direct activism, and proving that philosophy must lead to real world and changes, all the changes. Next, Fuller's legacy and impact. So Fuller's work was instrumental in shaping early feminist thought in America. We can say, take one example from the J.K. Rowling, that at that time women cannot write books or anything, but here we and this encouragement from the Fullers and all figures, that it's improving the woman's side. So her combination of transcendentalist ideas and feminist philosophy made her a critic and powerful voice in the 19th century. And here she influenced later suffragists and women's rights activists, including Elizabeth Cady Stanton. He is a American writer and also activist, and also leader of a women rights movement. So this is the main figure of this, and her conversational and philosophical style of feminism continues to be studied as a distinct approach to gender equality. So and she remains a key figure in American transcendentalist and literary history. Next, conclusion. Margaret Fuller bridged backing her pivotal 19th century thinkers, and while embracing self-reliance and intellectual growth. She criticized transcendentalism's inaction on women's rights. And women in the 19th century, she challenged patriarchy and marriage norms, and also societal restrictions, and linking women's oppression to slavery, and advocating for marginalized women. So these are this whole are main points about the feminism and transcendentalism also. So she influenced figure like Elizabeth Cady Stanton. She shaped the women's suffrage and human rights movements. Beyond feminism, Fuller remains central to transcendentalism and literary history, proving that ideas must translate into action for a real change. Her work continues to impact gender equality and social justice discussion today. So, these are my references. And thank you so much. If you have any question, please ask.
My question for you is, why is Fuller's legacy is still relevant and important for us today?
I earlier mentioned also, okay, fuller arguments for women rights and education and social justice. Also, it's continue to influence the feminist ideas, and we can say that it's relevant today, that how this society also reflect that how women treated by male, and also education system is low, and all social constraints also. So this is the point.
My question is, how did Fuller's feminism challenge transcendentalist ideals?
Okay, transcendentalism promoted self-reliance and also moral growth, but it often ignored women limited social mobility. And Fuller argued that women could not achieve self-reliance without systematic changes. So that is the main point of that. So thank you so much.
Hello everyone. Today's my topic for presentation is the Spanish Civil War in literature. This is my academic information table of content. Research question. How do different literary genres shape the representation of the Spanish Civil War? Hypothesis. Fictional account of Spanish Civil War, like For Whom the Bell Tolls, tend to romanticize or dramatize the conflict, while memories like Homage to Catalonia provide critical first-hand perspectives. Introduction. Spanish Civil War, military revolt against the Republican government of Spain, supported by conservative elements within the country. When an initial military coup failed to win control of the entire country, a bloody civil war ensued, fought with great ferocity of both sides. The nationalists, as the rebels were called, received aid from fascist Italy and Nazi Germany. The Republicans received aid from the Soviet Union as well as from the international bridges, composed of volunteers from Europe and the United States. The war was an outcome of polarization of Spanish life and political that had developed over previous decades. On one side, the nationalists were most Roman Catholic, important element of the military, most landowners, and many businessmen. On the other hand, the Republicans were urban workers, most agriculture laborers, and many of the educated middle class background. Uh, Spanish Civil War, political instability, a fragile second Republican faced deep division between left and right, economic hardship like poverty, inequality, and ownership issue fueled resentment, social tension, growing influence of radical ideology, military disconnect. A faction of the army led by General Franco plotted against the Republican, the spark, the military uprising. A military coup led by General Franco initiated the civil war. Initial success, rebels seized control of part of Spain, including much of the army, divided nation. Spain was split between the nationalist rebels and the Republican loyalists. The brutality of the war, bombing on of Guernica, political repression. Both sides engage in widespread execution and imprisonment of opponents. Social revolution. The war also became a battleground for competing social and political vision. Uh, the number of persons killed in Spanish Civil War can be only roughly estimated. Nationalist force put the figure at 1 million, including not only those killed in battle but also the victim of a bombardment, execution, and assassination. More recent estimates have been close to 500,000 or less. This does not include all those who died from malnutrition, starvation, or disease. Republican fails because nationalists have support of dictator like Hitler and Mussolini. Ernest Hemingway's experience in the Spanish Civil War. He experienced Spanish Civil War because he was a journalist of America in that time. Hemingway's unique position. Hemingway's individuality and direct involvement in the Spanish Civil War set him apart. He was initially celebrated as a champion of a Republican cause, but later faced criticism and dismissal from the American Communist Party. This unique position gave him a distinct perspective on the war, shaping his understanding of its complexity and human cost. Example in the literature: George Orwell's homage to Catalonia, Xavier Cercas' Soldier of Salmis, Ernest Hemingway's For Whom the Bell Tolls, mm, Mears Roderda's The Time of the Doves, Andrew Merlock's Man's Hope, John Dos Passos' Adventure of the Young Man, painting and photography, Pablo Picasso's Guernica, Robert Capa's photograph, Death of the Loyalist Soldier Spain, songs Spanish Bombs, and If You Tolerate This, Your Children Will Be Next, movie that refers to Spanish Civil War. Conclusion. Literature on the Spanish Civil War capture ideological divides, exile, trauma, and memory, from Orwell's realism to Hemingway's romanticism and post-Franco reflection like Soldier of Salmis. It shaped historical understanding. Human's narrative highlight civilian suffering, while contemporary works reclaim separate histories. Literature ensure the war's legacy remain alive. Resource. Thank you. Question.
So, as you have talked about journalism, about author Ernest Hemingway and Orwell. So, my question for you is, how do Hemingway and Orwell portray the Spanish Civil War differently?
Hemingway portrays Spanish Civil War as a heroic, like his character Robert Jordan and his sacrifice and all. And Orwell portrays Spanish Civil War as betrayal and cruel, and like he give a reality of war, and Hemingway give next.
So, Nirali, my question is, what are the psychological effects of war as depicted in literature about the Spanish Civil War?
Psychological effect in Hemingway's novel, like Maria strong kill anyone in war, but he stick to his duty, and Orwell's disillusionment and thank
Just a minute, Nirale, you have to sit there. Okay. There are so many mistakes in your presentation. In the very first slide, academic information. So in that, this mistake in that spelling of the academic. Okay. Then there is one research question, not research questions. Okay. So again, you have to edit that. Again, just try to improve your speech pronunciation and just try to, we can say, increase your volume. Okay. Then again, mistakes in this citation. You have not done MLA citation. Main text citation is also missing. Okay. And you have given examples of movies. So you have written title movie. Okay. So grammatical mistakes as well as in the citations. Okay. Some mistakes are there. Let's try to improve that. First edit and then just try to upload. Okay. Thank you.
One more thing.
Just a minute.
Another thing is there is a mistake in your title also. Mistake, I would call it rather modification or elaboration from my side, that whenever you are referring to the effects of war on literature, but you are exemplifying your observations through Hemingway, Orwell, and such texts, then your title should reflect which exactly literature are you speaking about. If you are going to centralize your arguments around Hemingway's text, for example, then your title should be American literature and not simply literature, right? Spanish Civil War, when you are comparing texts, then those comparative objectives should be mentioned in your hypothesis and research questions also, right? Whatever your presentation is about, the core objective, the core text, right? The core process through which you are going to approach these texts and objectives, everything should be mentioned in those beginning slides that you have. It should be reflected in your title, it should be reflected in your hypothesis, in your research questions, right? So try to see that smoothness, or rather the justification of your objectives is maintained throughout the presentation, right? So yeah, that's it from my side.
Just try to, we can say, enhance your explanation skills. Do not read just slides. Okay, you have to explain what you have written. Okay, that you have to do. Okay, from the next time. Okay, thank you. That also I want to give remarks on Sushti's presentation, because she is having hurry, so just try to give some remarks. Okay, your presentation was good. Echoes on the past of these tyrant families and the tragedy, all that you have mentioned. Just try to do one thing. You have to do in-text citation in author's information. Okay, you have cited in these references, but in that slide you have to add. Otherwise, your presentation was good as per my point of view. Okay, thank you. Continue, Sataksa.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Today I present symbolism of the bridge in For Whom the Bell Tolls. This is my personal information. These are table of content. These are research question and hypothesis. Research question: how does the bridge in For Whom the Bell Tolls function as the multi-faced symbols reflecting themes of war, sacrifice, existentialism, and human connection? Hypothesis: The bridge is the Hemingway for whom the bell tolls serve as the symbolic elements in the represents, both physical and metaphorical division at the embodies and the destructions inherent in war, the tension between the connection and separation, the inviolability of the faith and sacrifice, and the Robert Jordan's existential reflection on the meaning of life and duty throughout the philosophical and theme suggestion the human existence and much like Jordan's mission is the defined by invisible choice and uncertain outcomes. Introduction. In the Ernest Hemingway's From Whom the Bell Tolls, the bridge serves as the powerful symbols of the reflect the novel Jordan's mission at the bridge represents both strategic, military, and object need a deeper philosophical dilemma. Embodies the destruction and violence inherent in war division between life and death and the inevitable sacrifice made for cause throughout the symbolic significance in the bridge highlights the harsh reality of the conflict and existential struggles faced by those who face it. Symbols of the bridge. First, destruction and the war. Destruction of the bridge is the primary military target for the Robert Jordans and guerrillas fighters is the destruction in a curricular of the Republican cause and symbolize of the tragic and the violent nature of the war. The act of the blowing up to bridge represent both the tactical necessity and the inevitable devastation it comes with conflict. Second, connection and separation. The bridge is the typical and connection place of a people, but is the novel the bridge also represent division. It's represent life from death, idealism from reality, and the past from the uncertain future. Jordan's mission force him to comfort this division and mirrors of the one internal stressless. Third, existential reflection. In For Whom the Bell Tolls, the bridge symbolizes Robert Jordan's existential and reflection on life, death, and meaning of the actions. It's a represent uncertainty of the invisible nature of choice and the struggles to find purpose the chaotic world as the prepares to destroy it. Jordan's questions for whether his sacrifice will have a meaning, especially as he fall in love with Maria. Ultimate by accepting his fate and completing with mission, he find personal significance in his action and embodying in the novel theme of duty and existential reflection. These are my conclusion. In For Whom the Bell Tolls, the bridge serves as the powerful symbols of a war, division, and existential reflection in the represent both strategic necessity in the inevitable destructions and highlighting the brutality of the conflict. At the same time, it embodies deeper theme of connection and separation, making for divine between life and death. Idealism is the reality and the past and the future. Most important, the bridge reflect Robert Jordan's existential journey, forcing with comfort and uncertainty of his fate and the meaning of the sacrifice, thought, and the bridge. Hemingway's explore the complexity of a war, weight of duty, and search for personal significance in decadable world. These are my reference. Thank you. So, any question for further? If you ask me question.
So, Satakshi, my question is for you. What does the bridge reveal about the difference between idealism and reality in war?
Yes, the bridge reveal about a difference between idealism and reality war in a first of a Robert Jordan's believe in a cause and believe in a cause and the things of the mission of the mission is we will in the help in a war and the harsh of reality in the war is like a people's die and people's die. So anyone?
How does the bridge symbolize Robert Jordan's internal conflict throughout the novel?
Yes, the bridge is responsible of a Robert Jordan's inner struggles, duty, and love. The must closed between the complete the mission and the end uh, of uh, of figure with Maria and just like and just like a bridge connected two places and just in turns into two parts. He is a reality of the soldiers as soldiers in your life and uh, personal happiness. So thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Today, my presentation topic is The Past is Present, Addiction Grip on the Tyrant's Family. This is my personal information, table of content. My research question is, how does addiction in the long day journey into night function as a generational cycle, and what factor contribute to both its persistence and potential escape? And my hypothesis is long day journey into night addiction is not merely and a physical dependence, but a deeply rooted psychological and emotional response to trauma, regret, and familial dysfunction. The Tyrone family struggle suggests the addiction is inherent both genetically and behaviorally. Yet escape is possible throughout the self-awareness, external support, and meaningful sense of purpose. About author. Eugene O'Neill was a prominent American playwright, renowned for introduce realized into U.S. drama. Born in New York City to actor James O'Neill, Eugene's early life was marked with a long day journey into the night. Was a producer posthumously in 1956. Introduction: Long Day Journey into Night, a four-act drama by American playwright O.G. O'Neill, written between 1939 to 1941, but produced and published in 1956. Widely regarded as a O'Neill magnum opus and a masterpiece of American theater, the play was awarded the Pulitzer Award for Drama in 1957. It offers a deeply autobiographical portrayal of the day in the life of Tyrone family, closely mirroring O'Neill's own family experience. The narrative delves into theme of addiction, illness, and the hunting grip of the past as such as family member confront their personal demons and a collective turmoil that blind them. The Tyrone family, a brief overview. The Tyrone family in Long Day Journey into Night by O.G. O'Neill is deeply troubled family struggling with addiction, regret, and emotional isolation. The play follow one day in their lives, exposing their pain and dysfunction. James Tyrone, the father of one successful actor, is a miserly and emotionally distant. He regrets his career choice and climbed to a financial security. Mary Tyrone, the mother addicted to morphine, struggle with the past, longing for a lost sense of innocence and stability. Jamie Tyrone, the elder son and alcoholic and failed actor, resent his father and corrupt his younger brother out of bitterness. Edmund Tyrone, the younger son, seek the tuberculosis, represent O'Neill alter ego. He seek meaning in life but feels alienated from his family. The Tyrone family is bounded by love, it trapped it in a cycle of blame, addiction, disappointment, making them one of the most tragic families in the American drama. Addiction is an inherent cycle. Mary Tyrone morphine addiction. Mary addiction stem morphine preceded to her after childbirth, a decision influenced by her husband's fragility. Her dependence is fueled by emotional pain rather than physical pain, as she used the drug is to escape reality. Her addiction leads to cycle of relapse and recovery, affecting her ability to connect with her family. It's exacerbated to her loneliness, regret, and illusion about her past, making her a tragic failure who seeks solace in memories. James Tyrone alcoholism. The Tyrone's heavily drinking reflect his own escapism, rooted in his failed ambition and financial insecurity. His alcoholism contribute to his inability to provide emotional support for his family and increasing their collective suffering. His drinking also reinforced his controlling behavior, particularly in a matter of money and Mary's addiction. Jamie's died on alcoholism. Jamie's drink is both a coping mechanism and a form of self-destruction. His addiction fuels his resentment toward his parents, particularly his father perceived failure. He acknowledged his own failure to seem to expect a doomed future, knowing that his drinking will ruin him. Edmund Tyrant susceptibility. Although not yet addict, Edmund behavior suggesting he might follow in his brother's footsteps. He already drinks heavily despite his tuberculosis. Uh, his existential despair and literary influence suggests he is down toward a nihilistic worldview, which would make him vulnerable to addiction. Escape from addiction. Addiction is often more than just a physical dependence on a substance. It's deeply connected to emotion, to past experience. In long day journey into night, Mary Tyrone become addicted to morphine not just because of pain, but because of her emotional struggle, such as a regret, loneliness. Overcoming addiction require more than just quieting the substance. It involves the understanding and addressing the reason behind the action. Support from a family, therapy, and a strong sense of purpose can help in recovery. Oji O'Neill, Owen mother, who inspired Mary's character, overcome her addiction throughout faith and self-discipline, showing that change is possible with determination and the right support. Even O'Neill himself battled alcoholism but found a way out by dedicating himself to his writing. Escaping addiction take time, effort, and emotional healing, but with the right help, the motivation, it is possible. Conclusion. Addiction is in long day journey into night is portrayed as an inherited and self cycle where emotional pain and past regret drive a substance to dependence. Mary morphine addiction, James alcoholism, Jamie's self-destruction all highlight the destructive grip of addiction. However, Uzi O'Neill whole life as well as his mother recovery suggest that breaking free from addiction is possible with determination, support, and a shift in focus toward personal growth and purpose. The play ultimately reveals that while addiction thrives in an environment of isolation and despair, healing requires both emotional confrontation and external intervention. There are my references. Thank you, everyone. If you have any question, feel free to ask.
So, Sagar, my question for you, how does O'Neill's writing style show addiction's effect?
He use a pause, repeated word, and silent for show the hesitation, denial, and emotional pain caused by addiction.
So, Sagar, my question is for you. How does time affect addiction in the play?
The play show one long day, but past keep coming back. The Titan family is stuck in no regret, no no regret making a addiction. Thank you, everyone.
So, good evening, everyone. My name is Devangini Vyas, and my today's topic name is Transcendentalist Views on Education and Society, exploring educational philosophy of Thoreau. Academic information, table of contents, research question, and hypothesis. So, my research question is how does Henry David Thoreau's transcendentalist philosophy shape his views on education and its role in society? Hypothesis: Thoreau's transcendentalist philosophy advocates for an individualized, experiential approach to education that fosters self-reliance and moral development, challenging institutionalized learning system and promoting education as a means of a personal and a societal transformation. Introduction. So, transcendentalism. A 19th century philosophical and a social movement emphasizing individual conscience, nature, and self-reliance. As Shruti mentioned in her presentation, transcendentalist emphasize on moral development, self-reliance, and individualism. Key figures: Ralph Waldo Emerson, Henry David Thoreau, and Margaret Fuller. They focus on how transcendentalist philosophy shaped ideas of education and society, with Thoreau is a central figure. This presentation explores education as a personal transformation and a societal reform through transcendentalist ideas. Core transcendentalist beliefs: self-reliance and individualism, inherent and goodness and people and nature, critique of materialism and institutional control. Thoreau's educational philosophy. So, learning through experience. Thoreau's Walden Pond experiment, a model of experimental learning, critique of conventional schooling. Thoreau's opposed rote memorization and passive learning. So, Thoreau emphasizes on individual experiences and experiences in nature. Wholeness in education. So, education should develop the intellect, morals, and spirituality. We also connect Thoreau's idea with our Hinduism and Buddhism, like self-reliance and moral and spiritual growth. Education is a tool for societal reform. So promoting social justice and civil disobedience. So in education empowers individuals to challenge injustice. In civil disobedience, we know that thorough think about civil rights and uh, not just follow blindly on government, but follow your personal morals and individuality. Building ethical and communities. Schools and communities should cultivate a moral and responsibility and environmental stewardship. Democratic participation education encourages active citizenship and engagement in a democracy. Place-based education and nature's role. Learning from local environments. Education grounded in the places where we live as per Thoreau. Our local environment through we can learn. Nature is a teacher, so develops ecological literacy and ethical relationships with the environment. Examples like outdoor education, ecological projects in schools. Through that we can connect children with nature, and children are learn from nature. Relevance in modern education. So Thoreau's idea also relevance in our modern education system, like a critical pedagogy. So this teaching method helps students think critical about the society and inspires them bring a positive change. Experiential and a project-based learning. So emphasize hands-on student content learning in and environmental education. Incorporates Thoreau's environmental ethics into a modern curricula. Thoreau's idea also inspired Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. Mahatma Gandhi in our India and Martin Luther Jr. King in America's civil rights. Conclusion. A transcendentalist like Thoreau believed education should free the mind, helping people grow and improve society. Their ideas inspired modern teaching, environmental care, and active citizenship. Even today, these values guide efforts to build fairer and greener communities. Here is my references. Thank you. Now you are free to ask questions.
Question for you: why did Thoreau not like regular school?
Thoreau Thoreau thought about that regular schools are emphasized or focused on only memorizing facts, not individual thinking. They do not focused on individual thinking.
So, Devangini, my question for you, how did Thoreau think people should learn?
People should learn from nature. People should learn from their individual experiences. Like Thoreau lived 2 years in a cabin near the Walden Pond. So he learned from his real life experiences in lived in the nature. So people should learn from nature and individual experiences. Thank you.
Hello everyone.
My presentation topic about the Hemingway's vision in the Russian and Ukraine war. My presentation will analyze the Hemingway's war theme and how they remain relevant in today's conflict. Hemingway's work has always depicted war as a betrayal, disillusionment, and the psychological scarring. Similarly, the Russia and Ukraine war has demonstrated that war continue to be a tragic cycle and the end of destruction of the suffering. This is my personal information. Hemingway say that never think that war, not no matter how unnecessary nor how justified, is not a crime. That is my research question. Uh, my research question about the Hemingway's war theme, like disillusionment, trauma, sacrifice, betrayal, to apply the Russia and Ukraine war in today's time. My hypothesis is about the vision of war as a fluidity, brutal and psychologically demanding is still reliving today. He used the quote like, in modern war, you will die like a dog for no good reason. That is my table of content. Introduction. Hemingway's writing offer a reflect the harsh reality of war, exploring its impact on both soldier and civilians. The Russia and Ukraine war provide a modern portrait to Hemingway's theme of trauma, disillusionment, and the loss. My presentation will explore how Hemingway's vision of war, shaped by his experience in World War One, Spanish Civil War, and Hemingway's view on war. Hemingway's war Hemingway's war novel portrayed a different aspect of war, like a farewell to arm, explore disillusionment, showing how a idealist soldier grow weary of war's meaningless violence. From Room the Bell Toll, depict the psychological trauma soldier enduring and a son and also in the son also rise captured the emotional scare left behind even after the war end. The second, the Russia and Ukraine war, a Hemingway's conflict. The Russia-Ukraine war reflects many of Hemingway's war theme. It is a war of ideology and nationalism. Much like the Spanish Civil War, he wrote about it in his novels also. And soldiers and civilians alike experience deep disillusionment and also as the war darts on, causing heavy consequences. Disillusionment and the cost of war. War offer being with a particularly favor, but over time disillusionment set in. In a farewell to arm, Frederick Henry entire sport the war, but in later realized its futility and the senseless bloodshed. In the Russia and Ukraine war, many intellectuals believe in their cause, but the reality of loss, destructions, and the displacement has led the growing despair. Soldiers and civilians alike are struggling to find a meaning in a war-lone world. Psychological trauma and the soldier's burden. War leave behind the scare that go beyond the battlefield. Rise suffer from a post-war trauma, struggling with a survivor's guilt and emotional numbness. Today, a soldier in Ukraine face a similar psychological struggle. Also, they face a depression and becoming as a common thing. Despite the change in the warfare tactic, the mental toll on the soldiers remained the same, providing Hemingway's belief that war change people forever. The brutality and the brutality of war. Hemingway's work show that war dehumanized everyone evolved. In From Room the Bell Toll, war is not about heroes. It about a survivor. Similarly, the Russia and Ukraine war, which started as a geopolitical conflict that turned into a humanities crisis with a retained site and millions of displaced people. Hemingway remind us that war does not bring a glory, only a suffering. Technology and the changing face of war. Although modern warfare has evolved with a drones, cyber attack, and long-range strikes, the cure of a war remain unchanged: human suffering. Hemingway witnessed traditional trade warfare. But even today, his word remain a relative like a never confuse movement with action. Hollywood and Bollywood war film reflect the Hemingway's. Many films reflect Hemingway's war theme. Hollywood film like 1970, Dunkirk, and American Snipers, despite the loneliness, choice, and the trauma of the war. And like a Bollywood film, a film like a Border, Heather, and Shersha also reflect the psychological scare of war and reality of war, and also soldier scarcity. Conclusion. Hemingway's vision of war as a experience marked by a trauma, disillusionment, and the brutality remain relevant today. The Russia and Ukraine war serve as a modern example of these themes, provide that despite advance in technology and struggle, war's human cost remain unchanged. As Hemingway's war, he said that no weapon has ever stranded a moral problem. It can impose a solution, but is cannot generate in to be a just one. His literature stand as a reminder that a war does not create a horror, only a survivor. That is my reference. Thank you. Do you have any question?
Rosemin, my question for you: how does Hemingway perspective on war challenge the glorification of a conflict in media?
You know that the Hemingway is always rejected to the romanticize in his novels and the media and also films show the not a real but sometimes show the war as a romantic side and also and media focus on the not reality of the war but sometimes they focus on the uh, war challenging the
Rosmin, my question is what is Hemingway's stance on the political justification of war and how does it relate to today?
uh, in my presentation I will explain that Hemingway was a focus in the dehumanizations and humanity and war darkness in his novels, and then today's the war also connected to the his theme also as a political structure. Thank you.
Okay, so good evening, everybody. This is Rajdeep Bavalia, and today I am going to present on the topic Thoreau's influence on Gandhi, the evaluation of civil disobedience. Here are my academic details and presentation details, table of contents. Introduction to Thoreau's influence on Gandhi. So the concept of civil disobedience is a deliberate refusal to obey unjust laws. As Prakasa highlights that the idea of civil disobedience generally attributed to Henry David Thoreau achieved a complete metamorphosis with Gandhi. So civil disobedience challenges government actions that conflict with individual conscience. And Thoreau's original essay laid a moral foundation that questioned authority. So the evaluation from Thoreau's solitary act of conscience to Gandhi's collective movement is significant, and it marks the fusion of Western individualism with Eastern spiritual and political activism. So this historical progression illustrates how ideas can cross cultural and temporal boundaries. And Thoreau's writings provide a model for individual resistance that resonated deeply with Gandhi's context in colonial India. And purpose of this presentation is to explore the intellectual and practical journey from Thoreau's writings to Gandhi's methods. And the presentation aims to unravel the layered evolution of civil disobedience and interconnectedness of Eastern and Western thought. So Gandhi openly acknowledged the influence of Western thinkers like Thoreau. He credited Thoreau with offering scientific confirmation of his methods, and his writings bridged the gap between disparate cultures and ideologies. So Gandhi's adoption of Thoreau's ideas demonstrates the universal appeal of moral resistance. And this cross-cultural dialogue enriched both traditions. So here is my research question: that to what extent did Henry David Thoreau's writings on civil disobedience shaped Mahatma Gandhi's formulation and application of non-violent resistance, which is satyagraha, during the struggle against British colonial rule, with the hypothesis that Thoreau's philosophical insights on individual conscience and resistance to unjust laws significantly influenced Gandhi's development of satyagraha, transforming civil disobedience into an effective and mass-based tool against colonial oppression. Here are my literature review slides. So Henry David Thoreau and transcendentalism. So Henry David Thoreau was a 19th century American philosopher, writer, and naturalist. His works have inspired generations through reflections on nature, society, and individual conscience. So Thoreau's life and writings provide a window into the values of simplicity and moral integrity, and he was a leading voice in the transcendentalist movement. And Thoreau's beliefs were rooted in the idea that truth and beauty are found within nature and the individual. So this philosophy promotes self-reliance and challenges societal conformity. So the transcendentalist movement emphasized personal institution and the importance of the natural world as a source of truth. Emphasis on individual conscience. So Thoreau believed that true change comes when one follows their moral compass over societal expectation. He argued that obedience to unjust laws is a betrayal of one's inner ethics. So, according to Thoreau, the duty of an individual is to stand by their principles, even if that means to breaking the law. So his call for non-conformity has challenged generations to rethink their relationships with authority. So limited government and personal freedom. So Thoreau famously declared in his essay that I heartily accept the motto that government is best which governs least. So his words advocate for minimal interference in the lives of individuals. So Thoreau's this assertion challenges the legitimacy of overreaching governmental power. He believed that the best government is one that respects the freedom and autonomy of its citizens. So Thoreau is widely credited with introducing the concept of civil disobedience, and his writings set the stage for non-violent resistance as a legitimate form of protest. So Thoreau's essay not only articulated a critique of government, but also provided a practical method for resisting injustice. And his ideas have been cited by numerous scholars as the philosophical backbone of later movements. And next slide. Thoreau's essay on civil disobedience. So Thoreau published on the duty of civil disobedience in 1849 in Concord, Massachusetts. So the essay emerged in response to the continuous issues such as slavery and the Mexican-American War. So written during a time of national turmoil, the essay was a radical call to individuals to resist immoral government actions. And Thoreau argued that individuals must prioritize conscience over compliance. So his stance was that obedience to unjust laws it is not a moral duty. So Thoreau maintained that each person has a responsibility to act according to their moral judgment. So moral duty and personal sacrifice. So Thoreau believed that one's ethical responsibility may require personal sacrifice, including imprisonment. So his life and writings exemplify the readiness to endure hardship for one's beliefs. So Thoreau's willingness to accept the consequences of his actions underscored the moral weight of his ideas. And Thoreau's arguments contributed significantly to movements for social and political reform. And he stated, historians say that the chief cause of the abolition of slavery in America was Thoreau's imprisonment and the publication of his books. So the essay has been credited with laying the intellectual groundwork for major reform movements, including the abolition of slavery. And Thoreau evolved through time, influencing leaders and activists around the world. So today, civil disobedience remains a similar text in political philosophy and activism, and its principles continue to be cited and applied in diverse struggles for justice. So now Gandhi's early life and encounter with Thoreau. So born in 1869, Gandhi was a lawyer who faced racial discrimination in South Africa, and his early life experiences shaped his strong sense of justice and self-reliance. So Gandhi's formative years were marked by challenges that exposed him to a very systematic injustice and encounter with injustice. So in South Africa, Gandhi experienced very first hand the harsh realities of colonial rule. So this exposure spurred him to search for ethical and practical means of resistance. So facing radical discrimination, Gandhi witnessed the destructive impact of oppressive laws on everyday life. So Gandhi first spoke about Thoreau in the September 1907 issue of Indian Opinion, and he found deep inspiration in on the duty of civil disobedience, which validated his emerging ideas. So while in South Africa, Gandhi encountered Thoreau's essay, which resonated with his personal experiences. And the writing provided a framework for understanding resistance as a moral duty. Then Gandhi credited Thoreau as a teacher who confirmed his nascent ideas on passive resistance. So he acknowledged, "You have given me a teacher in Thoreau." So this statement reflects Gandhi's deep respect for Thoreau's philosophy. It also highlights the cross-cultural exchange of ideas that enriched his own political thought. And Gandhi integrated Thoreau's concepts into his evolving ideology of nonviolence, and he combined these ideas with traditional Indian philosophies to create a unique approach. So Gandhi's early writings and actions reveal a thoughtful synthesis of diverse influences, and by adapting Thoreau's call for individual conscience to the mass context of colonial India, he redefined resistance. Then evolution of satyagraha, Gandhi's adaptation of civil disobedience. So first of all, definition of satyagraha. So satyagraha means a truth force and refers to non-violent resistance. So it evolved as Gandhi's response to oppressive systems and as an ethical way to confront injustice. So satyagraha is rooted in the belief that truth and love are more powerful than violence. And Gandhi initially used the term civil resistance, but later adopted civil disobedience to capture its non-violent essence. And this shift reflected his evolving understanding of resistance. So the change in this terminology signified a deeper commitment to non-violence. And Gandhi recognized that the moral clarity of civil disobedience better communicated the intent of his actions. And Gandhi's adaptation of Thoreau's ideas was anchored in the belief that unjust laws must be resisted through non-violent means. So his approach fused Western rationalism with Indian spiritual traditions. And Gandhi transformed the individual act of civil disobedience into a collective campaign. So his methods mobilized entire communities against colonial rule. So Gandhi's leadership turned very abstract ideas into practical strategies for large scale resistance. And Gandhi's adaptation of civil disobedience was directly influenced by Thoreau's writings. He even adopted variations of Thoreau's quotes in his own writings, such as for a government which imprisons any unjustly, the true place for a just man is also a prison. So this integration highlights the clear lineage between Thoreau's ideas and Gandhi's methods. Then global impact and enduring legacy. So Thoreau's and Gandhi's ideas have transcended borders. Gandhi's methods later also influenced figures like Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela. So these effects of these philosophies can be seen in various struggles for justice around the world. And the concept of non-violent resistance has become a universal strategy against injustice. It emphasizes moral authority and the strength of a collective conscience. So the non-violent movements have successfully challenged powerful structure in various societies. So, and the writings of Thoreau and the actions of Gandhi have provided a model for a peaceful protest. So, and their ideas serve as a roadmap for confronting injustice without violence. So, this blueprint continues to guide modern social movements in their quest for justice. And the principles of civil disobedience offer a clear strategy for challenging immoral laws and policies. And the legacy of Thoreau and Gandhi informs debates about the role of government and the rights of citizens. And their ideas encourage ongoing critical examination of authority and power structures. So the enduring appeal of this philosophy lies in their call for personal and collective responsibility. And Gandhi's innovative adaptation of Thoreau's ideas reshaped protest tactics globally, and his legacy lives on the non-violent movements that define modern civil rights struggles. So conclusion. So the journey from Thoreau's essay to Gandhi's Satyagraha illustrates the evolution of civil disobedience, and both thinkers emphasize the power of conscience and non-violence. So Thoreau's call for individual moral responsibility laid the groundwork for Gandhi's mass nonviolent resistance, and their philosophy continued to inspire movements for justice around the world. And Thoreau's writings provided the intellectual foundation for challenging unjust laws, and his influence remains a cornerstone for civil disobedience. So, the ideas presented in his essay have transcended time and borders, providing essential in various struggles for rights. And Gandhi's transformation of ideas into action. So, Gandhi not only embraced Thoreau's ideas but transformed them into a dynamic movement. His method of satyagraha became a global beacon for non-violent resistance. So, by adapting Thoreau's concepts to the condition of colonial India, Gandhi created a method that mobilized millions. Uh, the philosophies of Thoreau and Gandhi continue to influence modern political thought, and their legacy informs a contemporary struggle for justice and human rights. And the evolution of civil disobedience from Thoreau to Gandhi illustrates the transformative power of ideas, and their work challenges us to prioritize conscience and truth over blind obedience. So, their enduring messages call on us to critically assess authority and act with moral courage. So here are my learning outcomes. So exploring this topic deepen my understanding of how peacefully resistance can drive social change. So studying Thoreau's and Gandhi's approaches shifted my view on the effectiveness of civil disobedience, and I have gained a clearer insight into the evolution of protest methods from individual acts to mass mobilization. And the historical continuity between Thoreau's writings and Gandhi's actions is striking. And the willingness of Thoreau and Gandhi to follow their conscience has motivated me to reflect on my own values. And their lives are testament to the power of standing up for what is right. So, their courageous examples challenge us to evaluate our responsibilities as citizens in society. And I now appreciate how ideas travel and transform across cultural boundaries. And the dialogue between Western and Eastern thought enriches our understanding of resistance. And the study has instilled in me a belief that fighting injustice is a duty grounded in conscience, and it has reformed the value of peaceful protest as a tool for change. So, through exploring these philosophies, I have learned that ethical resistance is not only about opposition but about building a better society. So, here are my references. Okay, thank you, everyone.
My question: how do the cultural context of 1920s India shape the interpretation and the application of civil disobedience?
So, in the 19th century America, civil disobedience was seen as an individual's duty to stand against unjust laws. While in the 20th century India, it is evolved as a powerful tool for uniting communities against colonial rule. So American culture emphasizes on personal right, while Indian society stressed more on collective struggle for freedom. So these cultural changes shaped how each each society used civil disobedience to create change.
So, Radip, my question is in what ways can Thoreau's individuality's approach to civil disobedience be reconciled with Gandhi's mass mobilization strategy?
So Thoreau's approach focuses more on individual responsibility and moral action against unjust laws. And Gandhi took his ideas and expanded it to include entire communities in the fight against oppression. So, by inspiring individuals to act according to their conscience, Gandhi was able to mobilize mass support. And though both these methods work together to challenge injustice through personal and collective efforts. Okay, thank you, everyone.
So, hello everyone. Myself Nishtha Desai, and my today's presentation topic is broken bonds, addiction, dysfunction, and the tyrant family's tragic fate. Here are my academic information. Here are table of contents. My research question is how does addiction function as a cyclical disease within the tyrant family, leading the dysfunction, despair, and their inevitable downfall in long day's journey into night? Hypothesis is in Long Day's Journey into Night, Eugene O'Neill portrays addiction not merely as individual affliction but as a cyclical inherited disease that fuels family dysfunction, ultimately leading to an inescapable tragic fate. So let's begin with introduction. Eugene O'Neill's play Long Day's Journey into Night, published in 1956, and it's a powerful drama about the addiction, family dysfunction, and regret. And we know that it's a one day play, beginning in the morning and end in night, and there are four acts in that play, and in that play we can notice that there are morphic addiction of family members, alcoholism, drug use, and they all blame each other. And we can notice the how the dysfunction of the family members in that play. And addiction is not just a one person's problem, it reflects the whole family. We can connect it with our family also. In our family, sometimes our family members have some issues like health issues, so all the family members suffering from that problem. So one person in family some issues of that member. Instead of helping each other, they blame and arguing and hide from truth in the play. The past haunts them, making it hard to change or move forward. And the tyrant family cycle of dysfunction. Dysfunction means something which is not proper work, something broken. So here we can notice that the dysfunction of family member. So first is the denial and avoidance. We all know that the every person denial each other and avoidance. So we can notice in the character of Mary. Sometimes Mary went in upstairs and she want to addict morphine, but at that time Jamie noticed her, and when she returned, Jamie asked her, you addict morphine, but Mary denied. So all time they denied from their addiction habit, and they avoid in the act one we can notice the cough of Edmund. Mary avoid the cough of Edmund. She can't relate the cough of Edmund as like a very danger problem. And then blame and resentment. They blaming each other. Mary always blaming James because of that home, cheap hotels, and all those things death of Eugene also. And in the character of Jamie, we can also notice that Jamie always blames his father because of Dr. Hardy. He always said his father, Dr. Hardy, is a cheap doctor, and you always cheap in use of money. So they always blaming each other. And then emotional isolation. Despite living under the same roof, they live in same roof, but we can find that there are many separations in their character. They are separate to each other, so it reflects the emotional isolation of the all characters. Then addiction is a family disease. Mary Tyrant's morphine addiction. Mary has a more habit of morphine addiction after the death of after the birth of Edmund, and originally using it pain relief, and then she has addiction of that morphine, and over the time she grew dependent on the drug, and she also denied to family members for their morphine addiction, and she always remember her past because she want to become a nun and pianist, so she can't we can say that forget her past, and she can't also live in her present. And Jamie and Edmund alcoholism. Both the Jamie and Edmund use alcohol. Jamie use alcohol. Why? Because of his unsuccessfulness. Like his father, James also was a successful actor at that time. Like that way, Jamie also unsuccessful person. So he took alcohol for his unsuccessfulness. And Edmund want to something creative in literature, like he like poems and all those things, but his family background, he can't live in his desire, and also he suffering from tuberculosis disease. So at that reason, Edmund can't live in his past present condition. Then James Tyrone also took alcohol, and he has a fear of poverty and regret over the lost opportunities. Instead of confronting his past choice, he uses the alcohol to escape his guilt. His drinking creates emotional distance of with family members, and fuel argument and resentment. Then the consequences of addiction and dysfunction, emotional despair and hopelessness. Addiction leaves the tyrant family trapped in the cycle of guilt, regret, and emotional pain. Instead of facing their struggles, they escape through the substance uh, abuse and denial, which only depends on their suffering. And all those things, they always blame to their fate because of but they can't accept their reality, so they always blame hope for they can't hope for future, but blaming their fate always. And broken family bonds. The tyrants relationship are broken, addicted, and they are blaming, arguing each other, and so it's create many problems, because we can't share our problems in our family, so it reflects sometimes in psychological trauma also. So some family members suffering from some disorders, and they have to then meet psychiatrists also. So it sometimes became very dangerous also. Then self destruction and ruined potential. Jamie accept failure as his fate, using alcohol self uptake to avoid a responsibility. And also we can notice that they also blaming their fate, and they can't accept their present, and they escape from their responsibility. So we can notice that the family members do not choose present. So they detach from each other, and Mary lost in memories of morphine, and every time she remembers Mother Elizabeth, her dream of pianist, and nun, and then tragic inheritance and inevitable downfall. In the end of the play, we can notice the downfall of the family members. Addiction passed through the generation. We can notice that in the character of James, he took alcohol. Then his sons inspired by him, and they both took alcohol. So it's become a cycle of family members. And Mary has a addiction of morphine. Then fate and inescapable past, they can't escape from their past. It is the most relevant question of that, and the inevitable tragic end. We all know that what is the end of the play. Mary remember her past gown, and then James and Jamie and Edmund busy in alcohol addiction. So they and it is a tragic play, and it is also connect with Eugene One's personal life. So it reflects the autobiographical also. And to the conclusion, we can say that O'Neill, the long day's journey into night, leaves us with a haunting reminder of addiction grip and individual and families. The tyrant remains trapped in their suffering, unable to break free from their past. Their story is universal warning about dangers of denial and the devastating effect of unsolved trauma. So we can say that in the end we can find the dysfunction of family, and addiction of all those things like morphine and drugs and alcohol, and regret of past. So we can say that it's haunting to remind us the horrorness of those character. So these are my reference sources. Thank you. If anyone have question, please ask.
Okay, so my question is, how does O'Neill's portrayal of the Tyrant family challenge the idea of the perfect family that still exists in modern society?
So yes, the One's portrayal of the tyrant family changes in today's perfect family in modern time. It also reflects the society shaped many criteria like wealth, competition, and so from this that all situation, family members schedule become hectic. They can't give their time to their family members, and all those time the competition also in the family members, like sometimes education competition, so children can't told their problems to their parents because of fear of their parents. So it also challenged the perfect family, and that create the in the one roof they are separated sometimes.
Question: does addiction permanently change a person, or is a complete recover possible?
So Yes, Rosmin. We can say that permanently change of person's addiction is possible. It is difficult, but it is possible if someone's mental support. We can solve it step by step. We first of all we can mentally support that person, and then give them courage. We are here for, and you can live without your that addiction problem also. So after those all things, that person can change their addiction. Thank you.
Hello everyone, myself Nikita Wala, and today's my presentation topic is the use of nature as a metaphor for human experience in Robert Frost's poetry. So this is my personal information, table of contents, and research question. How does Robert Frost use nature as a metaphor to explore human experience such as a time, choice, and loneliness, and the relationship between human and the natural world? Hypothesis. Robert Frost's poetry uses nature not merely as a backdrop but as a symbolic language to reflect human emotions and struggles. Though he presents nature as a both a mirror of human experience and an independent force, illustrating theme of time, isolations, existential choices, and the duality of man's relationship with nature. His poetry suggests that while humans seek meaning in nature, nature itself remains indifferent, challenging the human desire for understanding and control. Introduction. Robert Frost is widely recognized for his use of nature as a central theme in his poetry. However, rather than simply describing nature, he uses it as a metaphor for human experience, exploring themes such as time, choice, loneliness, and relationship between human and natural worlds. Through the his some of the poems like birches and stopping by woods on a snowy evening and the road not taken. Frost presents nature as a both a source of meaning and a force of resistance, illustrating how humans interact with learn from and something struggle against the natural world. About the Robert Frost. Robert Frost was an acclaimed American poet known for his uh, depiction of New England rural life and a mastery of American colloquial speech. He won the Pulitzer Prize for poetry 4 times, making him one of the most honored American poets of the 20th century. His poetry often portrayed the ordinary people in everyday situations with deep symbolic meaning. Several lines from his poems become famous, including "And miles to go before I sleep," from stopping by woods on a snowy evening. I took the one less traveled by, from the road not taken. Frost's father, a journalist, died of tuberculosis in 1885, prompting his mother to move the family to Lawrence, Massachusetts. He excelled academically and graduated as a co-valedictorian in 1892. Alongside Eleanor White, whom he loved. After The Freud's theory of metaphor and correspondence. Metaphor is a poetic experience. Freud believes metaphors shape human thoughts and are central to poetry. His poetry doesn't just describe nature, but uses it to reflect human emotion and decisions. Correspondence between nature and human life. Here, Freud show the two different things with nature, with human life. Freud suggests that human experience mirror nature, making nature a symbolic language for human struggles. Nature is a reflection of human experience. First is the passages of time and human life. First view, time is an unstoppable force, much like nature itself. His poem shows how humans must accept the flow of time, just as they must accept natural changes. So here, Freud says humans have to accept his present time. So natural changes with his example birth is the speaker wishes to escape into childhood innocence, but ultimately acknowledge the need to return to reality. So, second one is the struggle between human and nature. First, present nature is both indifferent and resistant to human desire. For example, stopping by woods on a snowy evening, the woods represent a tempting escape from responsibilities, but the speakers ultimately return to his duty. The relationship between man and nature. For example, lovers quarrels with and the world. The first sees the relationship between human and nature is both cooperative and conflicting. He acknowledged nature's beauty with beauty, but also its potential hostility and indifference. The uses of narrative and metaphor in Freud's nature poetry. Freud's poetry often blends storytelling with metaphor, using nature to explore deeper human emotions. For example, the Black Cottage, the preacher's idea about human truth fed against the permanence of nature, showing how time erases human trust. Second example is the hill wife. A woman feels isolated in the wilderness, representing the nature as both a physical and emotional barrier. Metaphors in Freud's nature poems. So, first is ice and snow, symbolize loneliness and isolations. Second is roads and paths, represent the choices and uncertainties. Third is streams and rivers, symbolize the time and inevitability. So, conclusion, Freud's poetry reveals that nature is more than just a backdrop. It serves as a mirror of human emotions and experience, whether depicting the passage of time, existential struggle of the conflict between man and nature. His use of metaphor allows readers to connect deeply with his themes. He presents the nature as both a teacher and adversary, showing that while humans seek meaning in the world around them, nature remains indifferent. Ultimately, Freud's poetry encourages readers to find their own interpretations within the nature's symbols, reflecting on their own lives through his vivid imagery and profound metaphors. These are my references. Now, anyone have question? Ask me.
And my question for you is, how do purchase and stopping by woods on a snowy evening illustrate Frost's view on the inevitability of time and human responsibility?
So, both poems, moment of lodging for uh, escape into childhood innocence or nature's stillness, but ultimately affirm the to
So, Nikita, my question is, in what ways does Frost poetry reflect both a reverence for nature, a recognition of its indifference?
Freud's poetry balancing admiration for nature's beauty with an awareness. It's called detachment, illustrating illustrating the humanity's struggle to real find a key find a meaning in an uncaring wood. So thank you.
Okay, so finally, now it's time for the remarks, final remarks for your presentations. Oral, it is my personal observation that we can find out some kinds of an improvements in your presentation, but still some kinds of mistakes are there. So let's discuss so you can improve next time. Okay. So from Tanvi, in your presentations, there are no in-text citation. Okay, so that you have to add, otherwise your presentation was good. Smruti Vadher, again, no in-text citation in your presentation. So you have to do, it is mandatory. Okay, so add these and then you can upload on SlideShare or any other platform. Then Shruti, okay. Uh, you have referred that Mary Wollstonecraft's Vindications of the Rights of Women. So that source you have to cite. Okay, you have given example, you have referred that. So you have to, we can say, add in your citation. Otherwise, your presentation was good. You have explained well. Okay. Then Satakshi, you have given presentation on symbolism of bridge, okay, for whom the bell tolls. So again, the same issue with your presentation, no in-text citation. Again, problem with the MLA citation style.
Okay. So then, when it comes to hypothesis and research question, again, right, maintain it throughout your presentation and remove any piece of information which is not related to your research question or hypothesis. For example, in Rosmin's presentation, you have the reference to various movies, right? Now, how are they relevant to your discussion about the reflection of Hemingway's views on war and the Russia-Ukraine war, right? Are you referring to the idea that these movies are presenting Hemingway's views about war and how they are relevant to the Russia-Ukraine war kind of a context, right? Sorry? Hemingway's view. Then you need to justify it, right? You need to add it to your presentation that this is why I have added these movies. Same is the case with any sort of example you give for the justification of your arguments. See to it that they are relevant to the discussion, right? If you give an example which is irrelevant, if you in the morning session we had this one particular graph in Khushi Ravia's presentation. Now there was no use for that graph in her presentation. If you are referring to any sort of point wherein you refer to the movies collection, box office collection, or the audience response to the movie, right, that kind of context is there in your discussion, then yes, putting that graph of box office earnings and box office treatment of that movie is relevant. Otherwise it is unjustified, right? So whenever you add examples, whenever you add information, see to it that you are referring to in another thing is for further exploration, right? Now that you are moving to the next semester, try to see that you also come with contrasting views regarding what you are presenting. So for example, in Rajdeep presentation, he is mentioning how this theory of civil disobedience is evolving from Thoreau's theoretical conceptualization to Gandhi's practical application in the freedom struggle, right? But now even Gandhi's time has passed, right? So it's been quite a long time since Gandhi applied it for the freedom struggle, right? Applied it for the injustices of the colonial rule. Now our injustices are different. So now try to see to it whether there is one more addition to the evolution of the civil disobedience movement or not, right? So another thing is, if you want to do that in this presentation itself, it is also possible. See what is the latest article. Search for the latest article on civil disobedience and Gandhi's movement, and you'll find something new, right, for further exploration, how this theory is relevant even today, or whether people are actually using Gandhi's ideas of applying civil disobedience to fight injustice even today or not. If they are not, then perhaps that theory is no longer relevant, right? So that these things now you can start thinking about when you prepare your presentations. Yes, a lot of you need to work on your pronunciation of, especially when it comes to simple terms like beneath or critique. These things are very simple and very common for your usage when it comes to presentations. So see to it that you pronounce them properly. And yes, in Shruti's presentation, same case with the mention of Wollstonecraft. You have mentioned one of the points wherein she is often compared with Fuller for her views about freedom for women, women's right, and so on. Why do you think that is happening? Was she a contemporary of Margaret Fuller? Right? Was she? If she was not, then why is she often compared with Margaret Fuller for her views? Right? Is it the other way around? Is Margaret Fuller influencing Wollstonecraft, or is Wollstonecraft influencing Margaret Fuller? That justification, if you provide, then it would add depth to your explanation. Otherwise, the presentation was good. At one instance, you mentioned J.K. Rowling as an example of early feminist writing. She is not an early feminist writer. She is a modern, or rather postmodern feminist writer, if you want to write it that way. Right? So that, again, examples when you give, right, see to it that it is justified in the context of your presentation. Smruti's presentation was also good. when it comes to post-structuralism, you are mentioning post-structuralist critique of fire and ice as your hypothesis, as the core objective of your presentation, right? So then specify which post-structuralist theory are you going to refer to, right? You have clarified that in the presentation. You have mentioned Derrida, you have mentioned Barthes, you have mentioned Kristeva as well, Lacan as well. But that should be reflected in your hypothesis and question also, that this presentation relies on these specific post-structuralist theories for justifying its arguments. Otherwise, people would think you are doing a very generalized critique of fire and ice, right? They will question you, which post-structuralist are you referring to? Because there are so many, right? So make sure that such clarifications are also done in your presentation. In a way, you can consider your hypothesis and research question as the gateway to your presentation. So make all sorts of clarifications which you require your audience to follow before they enter into the specifics, right? The individual slides of your presentation and your arguments. So yeah, again with Tanvi, in your hypothesis, you need to mention the text which you are going to analyze. If you are going to analyze Hemingway's text, then Hemingway's text somewhere should be mentioned in your hypothesis, right? Yes. Others we have dealt with, and ma'am has already mentioned. I hope you make those corrections in your presentation, and good luck to you for the next presentation. Thank you, everybody.